And again, thank you all for being here. Now, before I get started, getting into the tools of hope and their utilization, let me share my background and why I'm uniquely qualified to be sharing this information with you all. I am the author of a book called Saving Melissa, the 7 C's Secure the Mental Health System, and I'm also the founder of Family Empowerment Now. Now, the book Saving Melissa takes a deep dive into nationally recognized treatment models that I created along with my team, and it teaches the fundamental needs of a successful human service system, the delivery of services to persons most at need. Now, over the last 20 or more years, my team and I have helped thousands of people to overcome and make sense of the chaos and the complexity that's created by mental illness, and particularly mental illness of a loved one. So we've dealt with mental illness, and I've dealt with mental illness personally as an attorney and as a nonprofit leader in a variety of forms, from dementia to developmental disabilities to schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, and now we have such a tragedy going on with addictions. So we've seen it all. We've developed a lot of tools and concepts and strategies that have really been proven to help our clients. But interestingly, I thought it would be interesting for you guys to hear how we got here and why I created the Tools of Hope framework. It was about 6 months ago or so. I asked 5 of my key advisors, what do we have in our toolbox that people can begin to implement right away? Get them immediately into action, get them immediately into a sense of moving forward in the face of mental illness. And ironically, this blew my mind, all of them, independent of each other, said that we need to be able to give people hope. Think about how powerful that is. We need to be able to give people hope. And they all said it. So this cannot be a coincidence, folks. So I put it back on me because it's really hard to say, okay, here, I'm going to give you a box of hope and here you go. Here's hope. Or take this widget. This widget will give you hope. This isn't like pulling on a wishbone or buying a lottery ticket or, making out your Christmas list, right? Everybody has their own definition of what hope is. So I began to think about my sense of how to get people hope. And here's what I came up with. And I believe that as we move forward and as we feel a sense of traction, as we feel like we're accomplishing something, we're planting the first seeds of hope. When we're proactive and we're not reacting to the world coming at us, we're planting seeds and starting to cultivate hope. With that in mind, I took some time to review articles, ideas, resources that I've created over 2 decades, and I narrowed it down to the tools that you all have in your possession now. And that is the Tools of Hope that you're seeing and that you should have downloaded by now. So the main purpose of this webinar, therefore, is simply stated that I want to go through some of the unique nuances or the unique ways of thinking about the Tools of Hope that are ideally explained by me personally. In this webinar format allows me to directly provide you guys with the best ways to get started and to start making progress right now, today, versus putting it off for a week or 2 weeks. So I want you to think of this day as a jump start that will get you going faster than you ever could do on your own. I want to explain to you all how to utilize the tools in the most effective and efficient manner that you can. And I know that many of you from around the world have downloaded these tools and may be implementing them already. I've received a couple of really wonderful emails just in the last day or two about the utilization of them. And that's wonderful. I could not be happier. Keep doing what you're doing. But here's the thing. If you get one idea or suggestion out of this that makes it easier for you to make forward progress, that is a big win in my book. To be clear, it's about getting into action. We can't expect instant results, but taking action is the result we're looking for right now. Taking action in and of itself is a result. The rest is going to come by virtue of you taking action. And that's my goal for you today. I want to walk you through, and I want you to take away one idea, one tip or suggestion, have one aha moment that makes you feel like you're able to make some positive forward progress. Again, toward the end of the webinar, I'm going to review an exciting new offer that I know is going to add value to you in an entirely different and highly unique way. There's nothing else like this available anywhere. Something that we've also been creating over the last 7-8 months or so. And as I said, for those of you on this call, I want to offer you a real special bonus to make sure you stick around to the end. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. So let's just jump right into content now, all right? The first tool that we have, I call our Individual Intake Packet, or IIP. Now, this tool is based upon, it's based on a 22-page document that we use in our office every time we open up a new file and meet with a new family. But 22 pages is just way too much. It's meant to be a long process and an iterative growing document. It's just 22 pages isn't going to get you into action quickly. It's too daunting. It's too overwhelming. So for the purposes of getting you into action right now, I've included the most valuable items and really culled this document down into the 5 or 6 pages that it is. So let me tell you why that is important. And I've sort of already said this already. Just taking the time to complete the IIP gets you into action. It really gets your head around the idea of what you're going through and what you've been through with your loved one who has mental illness and what your family has been through. So do yourself a favor, grab yourself a cup of coffee and find a quiet place. As I said, get your PB&J and sit down for lunch and give yourself an hour. Take some time to really think this document through. It's your time. This process is going to give you the opportunity to take a step back, hesitate, pause, reflect, and think about the exercise of completing the IIP sort of as a way of speeding up by slowing down. Now, you're going to have to invest some time to fill this out. It's not going to fill itself out, but within a few minutes, the time that you are investing, the short amount of time that you invest, is going to give you back a huge amount of time in the future. I guarantee the payoff will be tremendous in the long run. And as you start, it'll feel as if you're moving already. So in the short run, you'll be getting the benefit too. The second thing that's important about this document is that once you have it completed, you have an amazing form completely filled out, and you have it with you at all times as a quick and abundant resource. It can help jar your memory. It can help you talk to clinicians. It can help you talk to providers and give them a good sense of what's going on and what's going on in the life of your loved one and of yourself. And frankly, in the life of your family and the journey that your family has been on. So I really want you to fill this document out, make copies of it, keep the copies on hand. Anytime there's a new doctor, there's a new provider, you can just hand them the document, hand it right over to them. Just give it to them. It's going to help them immensely. It will help them also to see that you are informed and that you are organized, that you don't mess around. And maybe most importantly, you're to be taken seriously, because so many of our families are sort of pushed aside in this process. And that's what we want to overcome here. We have a client way back, her name was Melissa, who, yes, the book was written about. She was hospitalized 9 times over 6 months in facilities from Hartford, Connecticut to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And there's no good way to get from Hartford to Harrisburg, so I don't know how she did it. It's a long haul. She and her family are, highlighted in my book, Saving Melissa, the 7 C's Secure the Mental Health System, so you could read more about them there. But suffice to say that her family was really left trying to deal with 9 different questions because of 9 different hospitalizations with 9 different answers and 9 different treatment teams who, they were all trying to struggle and figure out how to continue to treat this young lady, Melissa. Needless to say, they were beside themselves. They were distraught. It felt like, the sand is slipping through their hands. And frankly, they had lost hope. But if they had that IIP, that one document, just think of how powerful and how valuable it could have been right from the very get-go, right from the very first hospitalization. A tool that would have been so informative and so helpful, it realistically could have kept Melissa out of the subsequent hospitalizations and stopped that horrible traumatic cycle of decompensation, hospitalization, discharge, decompensation, hospitalization, discharge, all due to her mental illness. Okay, and before we leave this, one more thing I implore you to do with regard to this tool of hope. I want you to take some time to create a detailed timeline going back as far as you can, documenting the history of your loved one's case. That includes the onset of the illness, the symptoms of the mental illness, before the mental illness, reactions to the mental illness, hospitalizations, medications, et cetera, anything's been tried, failed, tried, worked, et cetera. I'm telling you, I've seen this come to play hundreds and hundreds of times. We do it every time, every single file in our office. Now, I have I'm honored because I get invited to participate in very high level planning meetings of very high profile cases. And the people that are inviting me are at the top of their game. They're at the very top of the profession with regard to the treatment of mental illness. I'm telling you folks, I promise you, nothing makes them happier than to see a really good, solid timeline that demonstrates to them and informs them about the history of the illness with any individual. So be sure to include that as you go through the IIP. Okay, now tool number two, I call the 1 year objective. And I included the next two tools to emphasize a couple of points. So we're going to start here and talk about tool number 2, the 1 year objective. The first point being, please don't forget, folks. Please don't forget. You have a future. Your loved one has a future. Your family has a future. It is essential that you not lose sight of that future. I don't want to get hokey. I don't want to get esoteric here, and I don't want this to be too heavy, but it's really worth taking some time to contemplate your future for a moment and remember what your own vision for your future looks like, and what did it look like, and what will it continue to look like. When I say you, I mean you and your family. I mean you and your loved one, you and your loved one specifically, and of course I mean you individually. Think about all the dreams that you had, and the dreams and the hopes you had for your family, dreams and hopes that you had for your loved one. And as you do that, I want you to take out your magic wand, which is your imagination, and I want you to imagine the perfect world. Okay, money being no object, resources are abundant, beds are available everywhere, right? We could get anything we need to in the community. What would life look like? What could it look like? Stop a second, and here I want you to give yourself the opportunity, give yourself the freedom to dream. If you need to, give yourself permission to mourn a little bit too. But also give yourself permission to hope again, because this is all essential in this big step, this filling out your 1 year vision. This is the big step. There's a quote by a guy who's been around forever, or was around forever, is an insurance icon and philanthropist. Basically used to be around with Napoleon Hill way back when. His name was W. Clement Stone. And what he said was really poignant to this conversation and in developing a sense of hope. And how do we get there? His quote was, "Big doors swing on little hinges." Think about that. Think about how true that is. Big doors swing on little hinges. For everybody on this call, the big door is developing a higher sense of hope. The wider the door opens, the more you, your family, and your loved one benefits, the more hopeful we get. Now, as we try to strive toward these 1 year big idea plans, these big pie in the sky, imagine if I could get all of these great things, doing this consistently and sort of pushing that rock up, the boulder up the hill is daunting. To consistently try to make these things reality, it's really hard to do. It's really tiresome, and it's very, as I said, very daunting. So as we talk about the big door level, we also want to remember what Brendan Burchard, one of my friends and mentors, says all the time, which is the time to have a map is before you go into the woods, right? The time to have a map is before you go into the woods. So we want to have the map that is going to allow the big door to open. We're going to allow, we want to have the map which basically becomes the small hinges. It's possible to open that big door when we move those small hinges, if we take the small steps to realizing whatever that hope means to you, whatever strides we have to take to get to the big door and have those hinges swing. And the 90-day action plan, the tool number 3, gets you to think about the seemingly small things that ultimately allow you to create new hope and a hope-filled reality for yourself and your family and your loved one in particular. This is where we come in and we say, okay, I got my big door picture. I got my big vision for the year. Now, how am I going to get there? Well, let's put together a plan that I can actually feel that I can conquer. I want to put together a map that's going to really get me there and allows me to open that big door to hope. So again, rather than think about the all-encompassing, dramatic, overburdening vision, the big door, think about the small steps that you could begin to take now to start on that journey. Start moving those hinges. Because I'll tell you what, if you take tool number 1, the IIP, and you fill it out, you've already begun to take the small steps. That's one of the hinges. That's one of the hinges that's going to help you to open the big door. Think about the small things that you could do today, the conversations you could have, the people that you can reach out to and talk to, and today and next week and the week after. So don't let this world that we live in now, where everything is so global and everybody's so far reaching and far planning and far seeing, be sort of overwhelming to us and prevent us from taking action. Because sometimes, man, it just makes sense to get back to basics. Start at the beginning again and do it in small, consumable bites that we feel we have control over. Life has to be broken down into smaller chunks. Now this is more true than ever. All right, so the final tool that I want to talk to you about is the interrelated service systems infographic and the agenda items. This is the tool that I've used to describe our concept of care coordination and the Guardian model to thousands of people all across the country. It's a real simple infographic. It shows you at the center of the circle of providers, and it shows all of the other providers around you and your loved one that are giving care and providing services to your loved one. Now, there's about 8 or 9 or 10 circles on this particular infographic. You may be surrounded by 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, 20 people, but they're all supposed to be working together theoretically in concert for the benefit of your loved one. Now, I've been in rooms where there's been a team of 3 people, and we're all working as a team together to provide services. I've also been in a room where there's been as many as 30 people. So think about 30 different people representing 30 different agencies and 30 different systems, 30 different organizations, 30 different ways of doing things, 30 different gods to answer to, so to speak, all trying to provide care for one person. It becomes important and essential that you understand the relationship between you, your loved one, and every single person in this room, whether there be 3 people or 30 people. And the beautiful thing is that since you've already filled out your IIP, and since you've already thought about the 90-day plan and identified a lot of the people that you may need to help you to reach those small consumable bites, you've already identified a lot of the people who need to be in these surrounding circles. Now, this sounds real simple. It almost sounds silly. But trust me, filling out this tool will give you a much better understanding of the structure of multiple systems of care, of multiple players within a team and multiple players within that system, and the people that you're going to need to deal with daily. You know, getting this real clear picture of who's who, their role and their relationship to each other as well as you, is essential to understanding how they fit in, what resources they can best provide to you, and what resources they can provide to each other. So this is what I call an interrelated service system, or we call it care coordination in my agency. And it begins to show you how a real good functioning system should look. It should look like a system or a team where everyone is pulling the oars in the same direction, because I know that if you're here on this webinar today and you're hearing my voice, you have seen a situation where not everybody's pulling the oar in the same direction, and communication breaks down, and it just, you know, results in a complete collapse of planning. So I want you to keep this tool handy. This is a great little thumbnail designed to give you a ton of information at a glance. And the second piece of this is the questions or topics of discussion that I've provided. And I want you to use these documents along with the infographic of the interrelated service system to meaningfully inform your team that you've just created. Because when you do this, what you're doing is you're establishing a foundation or a basis for communication with that whole team. You yourself are learning a new way to communicate, but you're communicating in a way that tells everybody that you are an empowered person. You are informed, and you are a vitally important member of this team. Next thing you know, you're going to find that you have created your own culture of coordination and a culture of comprehensive collaboration for the benefit of that loved one of yours that needs you so much. So we've begun to see the roadmap to opening the big door, and we've identified a lot of the little hinges. Going through this journey is going to help you to become the leader that you need to be, to become the coordinator, and become the respected in the role by everybody and all the professionals that you're seeing in your life. It is your time now. It's your time to get out there. It's your time to take this back and start implementing these tools. So I've given you the 4 tools of hope, and I hope that, you know, my hope for you is that you've gotten one little aha, one little takeaway. And I really want you to start to recapture the hope that many of you feel that you've lost. Thanks for your time and for listening to me here today. As always, thank you for the work you do for the benefit of others. And I look forward to seeing you all in our future chats.